Alright. So this is the final game of the tournament. So this is it's some good context going into this. 5-2-6 points. Let's pull up the leaderboard and the timeline so we get a better idea of what their thought process would be going into this, because that could actually severely influence the way that they play this shit. They basically popped 5 minutes before Q, so they knew this was going to be their last game. They 100% knew it was going to be their last game, and they loaded in with 526 points. 5-6 already put that they would have been way up the top of the leaderboard at this point. So they were going in probably knowing they were playing for a placement, a top 3, top 4, something like that. So to have the game that they did is impressive, because there's pressure there, man. Contested, and I like how they're happy to. Are they going to engage? Or they're going to disengage? I think this is one of those scenarios where, particularly when there's money on the line and a cash cup extra like this, we just got to cut your losses. Say what's the point of fighting over there? So, I mean, yeah, you absolutely cut your losses. There's no point fighting that team. You look at this loadout and you go, what's the point of pushing these guys? There's no point. We may as well, yeah, I was going to say you may as well, like, potentially go up, take this loot. You can go to here. They're going to have to go to the bridge to get their medal anyway, so they'll be cutting out this way to get this extra loot, you know, that sort of is in this area here anyway. Not caddy, but like this sort of area here. Oh, he's gone, yeah. There you go. He was trying to get an AUG. That's what he's trying to do. So we've got Scar. Okay, now this loadout's actually nuts. So 3 bigs, 6 minis, 6 minis, 3 flobbies. Obviously his isn't as good, but I mean still fucking decent with the AUG and a pad and 6 minis. The big thing here is finding their medal. So just sitting in here trying to get to at least 400 medal each is probably the play. Obviously max is better. They're playing right on edge of second. And if they've got a car, they should find this next rotation fairly easy, even if it pulls far, because the rotation around here is generally really easy 90% of the time. The reason being is because you can cut lines of sight really nicely on those dirty hills. Even though it seems quite flat, there's actually quite a bit of undulation, and there's definitely ways to cut lines for sure. Llama, there you go, llama. That is huge. Honestly, if they play low this game, that's their win condition right there. Those things are broken. And like I said, you can sort of play the hills, cut lines of sight fairly easily. You see what I'm meaning about there's quite a bit of undulation around here? So cutting lines of sight's actually quite easy. All they have to do is get over the top of this hill here, and they cut line of sight really easily. And then it's basically just driving down here. And then if they really want to cut line of sight to those guys, they can hug in here. Or if things get really bad, they basically vertically drop off the edge here. Really nice, like honestly, this guy's fucking impressive. What I've seen is just purely strong fundamentals, right? Like fundamentals that you cannot argue with are near perfect. They do take a snipe, but look at the position they're in versus these other guys in the lobby here, right? EU is one of these teams that really pushes for power positions on the map. So you've immediately got people sitting on the edges of these ridges here, and those guys have completely avoided all of that, and now they've got themselves into a position here. But if it pulls far. It's not like they're in this area here where they're forced to rotate amongst other players. Still going to be a relatively free rotation. And make the classic 4x1. Give themselves lots of space to scout. And if these guys want to W key them, they got lots of space to move into. And again, that same idea. 4 boxes, the 4x1. Not afraid to burn a few mats to stay safe. That's a Chap classic. That's something that Chap did back in the day that made him really successful, or made his teams really successful. Not being afraid to burn mats and then rely on his teammates to get him refreshes later. Like, just to be safe. Basically, this sort of situation here, right? They're able to pick up a refresh. So those mats that he spent to give himself some extra space already got back and more. Pick up an easy refresh there as well. And Clement launches. Let's see how they play this in-game. 36 man. 36 man moving. Now, one thing I'd like them to be aware of before landing on low is the way that it pulls up quite a lot. So I wonder if we're going to see them get up 1 or 2 straight away. That's the thing that I would always be telling my teams to do. If I see them in a scenario like this, straight away get up through 3 layers so that you're not caught. Again, I come back to that same idea. If you've got a hill that looks like this, If you're in the box down here and you've got to push up through all these layers like that, when teams pressure from up top, causes basically like a car pile up, right? So if you are able to clear those layers early, you find yourself, you get up and do that, you don't find yourself in the car pile up. So the best way to avoid situations like that is just to simply get up and clear layers early. So I'd like to see them get up 2, 3 more even if they can. And they draw. Oh, that's a beaut. That's wonderfully done. And if this is the start of their low claim, that was so smoothly done. But they've basically made it really difficult for anyone to come and claim that area now. This is when they look for their refreshes consistently too, eh? Like there's a pattern here. There's definitely a pattern of them, of everyone stopping, looking for the refresh right, you know, as they're in the waiting period of zone transition. But again, it's that as soon as zone pops, Clement's like a robot. He gets his team into zone, and then he's like, okay, let's look for refreshes. And then as soon as zone pops, it's need to go back to my task. But that layering there goes to show this is some of the best tarping I have seen in forever. This is so impressive. But that game, and that endgame specifically, Clement carried. This run of tarping here is genuinely one of the, because it happens in 2 phases, right? He cuts across, and then he immediately cuts straight up. Whether he's trying to use because it could, you know, I talk about River Sound style tarping all the time, keeping a portion of zone going vertically, and then a portion of zone going horizontally in your box at all times. He does this to perfection while scaling a hill about 5 or 6 tiles high. And then once he gets up that hill, he plays these next layers perfectly to put pressure on the teams below them and potentially cause a refresh for his teammates. Not here, it's the zone coming up. This here, where he starts to claim all this space. He makes it easy for his teammates out back to potentially find any kills that they need to. That's probably, again, I hate to use the word carry because I feel like it discredits Floki and Deceptos, but in terms of a game that was won purely based on the actions of one member of the trio, if Clement wasn't on this trio, I promise you, this team doesn't win that game 9 times out of 10. That was a masterclass of vertical zones, awareness, spatial awareness, tarping, mid-game decision making. That's one of the best IGL games I've not even reviewed recently, but ever reviewed.